Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the weather warnings. We still have a rain warning that does expire later this evening, so we have still got some very heavy rainfall parts of England over the next few hours. As you can see from the live radar, a cold front is sinking southwards. Very active cold front is re-engaging, and we are seeing some really high precipitation rates along that frontal system, potentially even some line convection. So have a look at the latest for the weather warnings for that, and we'll have a look at the latest UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. So once this cold front sinks southwards over the night tonight, through the weekend into the start of next week, we're all going to be going into a pretty cold Arctic air mass. Again, it's nothing ridiculous, but it is pretty cold for the time of year, as much as 5 to 10 degrees below average for the time of year. There's the risk of fairly widespread frosts, especially further northwards, but a couple of nights could even see it further southwards, and there is the risk of wintry showers around, potentially even a bit of snowfall over some of the higher mountains across Scotland. Now, in the longer range, it isn't looking particularly mild. Yes, the cold air from the north will get cut off after a couple of days as the high pressure topples in. But as we saw in the last couple of videos, the high pressure is likely to sit over the top of us, move to our north and our east, and potentially set up an easterly wind. That's looking like a pretty likely scenario at this stage. It's just how cool that easterly wind is and what sort of air mass we'll be pulling in. Now today, quite a few of the operational runs are pulling up more of a milder southeasterly, like the GFS today is pulling up quite a mild southeasterly. I think the Eastern OF is as well. However, even though some of the operational runs are trending more towards a milder southeasterly, this is why we look at ensembles, because the ensembles have trended towards a colder continental air mass, where we're seeing some really quite cold air move in around that high pressure all the way from Scandinavia as we head into next week. So we'll look at that in detail in the second half of the video. So you remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see the really heavy rain that moved through last night is now all the way up towards Scandinavia, and this is the warm front, and off the back edge of this low is the cold front, and you can see it is now sweeping southwards and eastwards. Some of these areas, especially across the Midlands and Northern England, have seen pretty consistent rain for the past 24 hours or so, being pretty miserable in quite a few of these areas. And yeah, the cold front is becoming more intense, and you can even see an area of line convection stretching all the way from Denmark all the way down to southwest England, and this line convection could get more intense over the coming hours as well. But there's a very stark contrast between the air masses here, mild to the south and the east of this, much colder to the north and the west. Again, the proper cold Arctic air is still out to our north and is slowly edging southwards, but this is the difference between some real mild Mediterranean air mass and a cooler North Atlantic air mass. So in the southeast, even though it has rain today, drizzle, lots of thick cloud around, it has actually felt fairly pleasant when a few glimmers of sunshine, and it has been fairly humid, but it is getting pushed away, and it's likely we're not going to see this sort of warm air mass return for at least a few days, maybe even a couple of weeks, and might not even get back towards the 20-degree mark for many, many months, maybe until next spring. It happens at some point, and this could be our sort of flip towards proper, consistent autumnal weather. Could be this cold front spreading through at the moment. If you go back to the live radar, you can see that some wintry showers are starting to push in for Scotland. Most of these rain, but you can see a few little bits of blues indicating some snow developing in some of these, but at the moment really only over the highest mountains. But that freezing level will lower to more moderate hills over the next couple of days. If you have a look at the past 24-hour precipitation, you'll be able to see the amount of rainfall that has fallen in that yellow warning zone. As I said, heaviest stuff across the Midlands, Northern England and Wales, but we have seen pretty much persistent rain for the past almost 24 hours or so. Further south and eastwards has seen a lot of rain, but not quite as much, but these areas are going to get there. Rainfall totals topped up with that cold front sweeping through in the coming hours, widely giving 10 to 20 millimetres, maybe even higher, for the whole 24-hour period. Now, if you look at the weather warning, we have got the rain warning that was issued last night, starting last night, and it expires 8 p.m. this evening. So only got a few hours left. However, from the looks of the live radar, I don't think the cold front will clear in the next 3 hours. So I'm surprised it hasn't been extended maybe until midnight. So yeah, emphasise that there could still be some issues even after 8 p.m. as that cold front sweeps through. Has been updated and it has trimmed southwards across. It's been trimmed southwards across northern England and North Wales, where conditions will improve this afternoon. Further 10 to 20 millimetres, likely maybe 30 millimetres in a few spots. Again, on top of heavier rain we saw yesterday, high likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, you can see that cold front now sinking south and eastward, getting more intense through this evening. And on the live radar, it's actually quite a bit more intense than the UKV is making out to be, and it actually is behind on its schedule. The UKV definitely more progressive with this squall feature and this cold front. It is probably an hour or two ahead, and that's probably why that weather warning expires at 8 p.m. Many areas around London, as I'm recording this around 5 p.m, have not got a drop of rain yet, but this is showing the squall feature arriving at 5 p.m, which, as I'm recording this, isn't happening. So UKV definitely a bit progressive. But it will eventually clear tonight, maybe just a couple hours later than the UKV is showing. And then we see showers move in from the northwest. Increasingly, those showers across Scotland becoming wintry. Not all snow, but over the higher ground, we're definitely looking at pinks here, indicating snowfall. Into tomorrow afternoon, it's a classic north to northwesterly wind with showers for northwest England, northern Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. Elsewhere, fairly dry, but a few showers could get through, especially in the afternoon where the sun gets a bit stronger. Other areas, it's going to be very dry, it's going to be very sunny, but it is going to feel very fresh and it is going to feel pretty cold. Into Saturday night, we could see some more heavy wintry showers for Scotland, looking quite intense in places and fairly widespread inland. Falling as some sort of wintry mix there, and where we see clear skies, especially in the north, frosts could develop. Into Sunday, a bit more cloud around as we cut off that northerly flow, but still a cold air mass around, so it's going to feel chilly conditions, and again, it could be a frost overnight. And progressively, as we get into Monday and Tuesday, very similar conditions where it's dry, some cloud around, but still plenty of sunshine. This sort of pattern, the upper air temperatures start to slowly rise, so those temperatures could rise from sort of the high single digits, low teens, to maybe more towards the mid-teens as we head towards middle of next week. But again, all depending on the orientation of the high pressure. If we see here, you can see the cold front sweeping through, but the proper cold air doesn't arrive until tomorrow morning, as it does really cold quite widely. The -4, -5 line might even get towards southern England here. And eventually you can see the cold northerly wind gets cut off on Sunday afternoon, but it doesn't linger all the way into Monday, slowly warming up through Monday into Tuesday. And by Tuesday you can start to see some milder air moving in for the south, but I do think that's because the UKV's got a little bit of a southeasterly tilt initially. But if we have a look at the sea level pressure, you can see that high pressure is building northwards, so you'd expect those winds to veer more northeasterly through Wednesday and Thursday. Dew points are still pretty cold, and you can see dew points widely down towards the freezing mark, if not lower in places, again indicating the very cold air mass, very Arctic-based air mass we are seeing. And you can see overnight tonight, temperatures still 20 degrees in the southeast through this afternoon, but that should clear away and temperatures will plummet further northwards down towards freezing. Not the coldest night yet, as the cold air hasn't fully established itself, but by Saturday afternoon, temperatures might not rise much in many areas, maybe a 12 or 13 degree in the far south. It's going to feel a lot colder than it's felt recently, and areas in the north, maybe only 7 or 8 degrees. Again, Highlands of Scotland, maybe only touching 1 or 2. Saturday night into Sunday, much more widespread frost developing for most of Scotland, inland Scotland that is, most of inland northern England, much of Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland inland as well, getting down towards the freezing point. Further southwards, maybe 5 or 6 degrees. Bit of urban heat there around London, maybe 6 or 7. And then it's Sunday afternoon, temperatures again struggling around the 10 or 11 degrees, so it's going to feel even colder than Saturday. Many areas not getting into the double digits, so yeah, really chilly. And then into Monday, again, could be a frost around, but again, more cloud developing, so holding those temperatures up, still very cold, but holding them up above freezing, more around the 3 or 4 degree mark. And Monday afternoon again, max around 11 or 12 degrees, but slightly milder further northwards. And then into Tuesday, again, could be a bit of a frost overnight, but have to contend with more cloud. And then Tuesday afternoon, again, 13, 14 at best in the south, as we see some slightly milder air, and again, holds up those overnight temperatures. So it's going to be very cold this weekend. Pretty cold as we head into Monday, before slowly climbing around Tuesday or Wednesday. But I would put a caveat on that, because that is all dependent on the exact air mass we see move through the majority of models at the moment, majority ensemble members, of cold air this weekend, slight push of milder air through Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe as early as Tuesday actually, as we see the high pressure topple before seeing another cold air mass sweep in from the east come the end of the next working week. So you need to keep a very close eye on that. If you do now have a look at the longer range, have a look at the latest GFS, you can see the low to our southwest getting pushed away now, and we are seeing that very cold northerly wind arrive. Going to push in a proper cold Arctic air mass, eventually getting cut off by Monday, and then we start to see the winds veering from the east. Now the GFS today has got quite a strong southeasterly, so if you actually have a look at the upper air temperatures, it's actually bringing some milder air in, would be quite rainy with that as a bit of a cut-off low develops across Europe, and nothing majorly cold in the longer term here. Definitely more trending around average, oscillating above and below. So not mild by any means, but nowhere near as cold as the runs were showing yesterday. It's all because of that more southeasterly tilt of this high pressure system, not pulling that cold air around, which is getting more trapped towards Scandinavia. Look at that big pool of cold air towards Scandinavia, not getting pulled our way, and that's because of the orientation. But as I said, more ensemble members today are showing more of a colder air mass, so perhaps it's a bit of an anomalous GFS 6 o'clock run. If we do look at the latest GM, again, that northerly wind is coming in, turning very cold. High pressure builds in up to our north, and the GM does get that cold easterly wind in. And not the coldest run we've seen in the last couple of days, but it is on line for cold air moving in. So you can see cold air mass moving in this weekend. High pressure topples in with a temporary mild air mass, so perhaps that's what the UKV is picking up on. As that high pushes north, by Thursday, Friday, we start to see that easterly wind develop once again, and we see very cold air move in the -5 line once again, and again you can see the temperature deviation 6 to 8 degrees or even 10 degrees below average. So GM, very cold this weekend, briefly milder for a couple of days in the middle of next week, and then easterly winds develop. And again, under the higher pressure, even with a milder air mass, it won't feel all too warm. Definitely be a lot cooler than it is at the moment, but maybe more around the 14, 15 degree mark than the 8 or 9 degrees, which is possible through Sunday. Now, similar to the GFS, the ECMWF does go for a more southeasterly based Scandinavian high. Again, cold air moving in, eventually the high pressure builds in, and again pushes in a southeasterly, very persistent with the easterly winds, holding it off all the way to day 10. And you can see there is some briefly colder air that moves in for Scotland, but for the majority of this run, once that high pressure builds in, it does pull up generally milder air, or at least average to slightly above average, before a colder air mass tries to move in by day 10. So again, a lot of uncertainty with this, and the GFS and ECMWF operational runs today are definitely going for perhaps more of a milder southeasterly. But as you see from the ensembles, there definitely has been a trend towards more colder runs. See, very cold this weekend, about 3 days of those upper air temperatures being below the freezing mark, very dry as well, so it's going to be, yes, cold, but it will be sunny, especially further southwards. Be very little showers further southwards, and there is the risk of frost, but it will be very cold. Upper air temperatures do rise early next week, majority of runs showing that, for a good couple of days around next Wednesday to Friday. And then we could see another big drop in those upper air temperatures. Some runs down towards the -5 line, more than what we saw yesterday, but other runs, like the operational, keeping us fairly mild or more around the average mark. But yeah, definitely been a trend towards those cooler runs in this latest update. So we're seeing one surge of cold weather now through this weekend, brief respite towards the middle of next week, then potentially another colder spell. But at this stage, there is a lot of uncertainty. It's definitely trending that way, but still a lot of uncertainty. Very little precipitation through this weekend. Precipitation picks up as that southeasterly arrives with that milder air mass around that high pressure, as we will probably see a bit of a cut-off low, but that rainfall will mainly be in the south with high pressure dominating further northwards, and then it probably would go perhaps drier when the colder air moves in, but there will be some convective showers, so there'll be the risk of that. You can see the 2 meter temperatures are very much up and down, very mild at the moment. Cold this weekend, 9 or 10 degrees, maybe 14, 15 in the middle of next week, before dropping back down to maybe only 9 or 10. And you can see in the longer term, we are seeing the step change towards autumn now, not looking much above 15 degrees for the foreseeable future, and most likely until next spring, unfortunately. And if you have a look at the dew points, you can see the oscillating air mass is very cold this weekend. Big rise early next week is a bit of a milder southeasterly flow, and then potentially dropping very cold once again, but lots of scatter. And to finish, if we have a look at the latest ECMWF, very, very similar. Very cold this weekend, down towards the -4 and -5 line. Rise early next week, around middle of next week, and then we could see another drop. Perhaps more of a split here, more of a 50-50 split than the GFS was showing. As you can see, the ensemble mean only just goes below average around the sort of 23rd of October, or so in around 7 to 10 days' time. Definitely are some colder runs, but equally there are quite a few milder runs. So a bit of a trend toward cold today, but no guarantees. Operational runs from the GFS and ECMWF are both mild, or generally mild, but the ensembles have shifted slightly slightly colder, so definitely all still in the balance. But yeah, we are seeing autumn and even some glimpses of winter properly arriving in the next 24 hours, and potentially here to stay for the foreseeable future. So unfortunately, if you are still trying to hang on to the summer warmth and enjoy the generally warm air masses we've seen over the past month or so, unfortunately, it is looking likely to be gone, and probably gone until next spring. So make sure you get out your hats and gloves, your coats, as it is going to be needed in the next few days and the next few weeks. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you stay tuned to see if we do see that colder easterly wind, and of course, the hazards of the generally cold weather coming up this weekend. So as I said, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.